Hello, Sydney teachers. This is Christine here, and I'm going to show you how to create an assessment in Schoology. So I have a blank course here as my canvas in a way to be able to show you how to do this. So the first step we're going to go and do is we are going to go to Add Materials, and we're going to add an assessment. It's going to bring up this window here, and so we are just going to build a basic assessment. So first thing, we got to give it a name. So I'm going to call this my practice assessment. I can choose to give it a due date. I'm going to make the due date August 8th, and my assessment is going to be worth 25 points. Important thing to take a look at here is the submissions. If your submissions are disabled, that means students cannot get into the test. They also cannot submit the test. So there's a few options here. We can enable it, which means the test remains open until we decide to disable submissions ourselves. We can say enable until, which means that I can make this have a due date specifically, so that way students have to have this turned in by August 8th at 11:59 p.m. I can give it a window, so I can have a start time and an end time, or I can just completely disable submissions. I'm going to just leave submissions enabled right here. You can also make your assessments password protected in case you're worried about students getting into the assessments without your permission or before class. So you can enable that and create a password that you would give each class, or give for the assessment that day that students would have to enter in order to get into the assessment. Choose the category you want this to be in. This is my assessment, so I'm going to put it here. Grading period, this one should already be kind of set. Since this is a sandbox course for me, it's just going to be sandbox. You can have this checked if you want to have this synced to your gradebook later on. And then, of course, we want our grading scale as SES traditional. Don't forget these additional options down here, such as individually assigning things to particular students, turning on our grade statistics, and being able to copy things to courses. So I'm going to go ahead and create this. And it's going to take me to the assessment setup page. In this setup page, we are going to be able to give instructions and set up a few settings here. So here, these are just like the beginning instructions, just your expectations for this. You know, do well, answer each question to the best of your ability, but this is before they start the assessment as it is. So please do your best on this assessment. Complete each question. Okay. From there, we have some assessment settings. First one is, does the assessment have a time limit? Most assessments you're probably not going to give a time limit on, but if you want to have students, you know, give them a certain time limit, like you have to have this completed by the end of the class period, you can say yes, and then give them a certain amount of minutes. Next setting here is assessment questions are randomly ordered. In other words, you can give questions in specific orders in the order that you assign them, or they can randomly show up. Now, keep in mind that means that you could have a multiple choice question followed by an essay question followed by a short answer. So if you want them in a particular order, leave this checked as no. If you're okay with them being in random order, click yes. Show possible points for each question during the attempt. This will let students know how many points each question is worth. Assessment toolbar. These are the toolbars that students have in each question. So do you want students to be able to flag questions for review? In other words, if a student has a concern about a question that they have answered and they want to go back and check their work later, you can have this turned on so they can flag those questions and be able to go back to them. Students can eliminate answer choices. In other words, students are going to be able to click on answer choices to kind of, eliminate to be able to find the best answer. There are different types of calculators here, so students can use a calculator during an attempt. So there's a few options here. So we have no, in other words, no, there's no calculators allowed. Yes is basic. This is our basic 4-function calculator. And scientific calculators are also available. Students can use a ruler during an attempt. Again, we have a couple of options here of both centimeters and inches. Keep this in mind that you cannot switch between the two during a test. So if we are looking at younger grades who are learning the difference between centimeters and inches, this would have to be 2 different assessments. They cannot be the same assessment. Students can use a protractor during an attempt. Again, yes or no. Students can highlight text. Yes or no. And students can use a notepad to be able to take notes or other things. Finally, some student settings. Allow students to view results after an attempt is submitted. We have a few options here. No, in other words, no, they cannot see the results of the test because some of these questions can be self-graded. Yes, they can see the results. And then yes with correct answers. So the correct answers ones means that they'll be able to see the results of the test and see what ones not only did they get wrong, but what the actual correct answer is to it. And finally, the number of attempts students can submit. It goes up to 20 times. So if this is a one and done type of test, you can do that. If you want to give them a second chance and make it 2 times, you can do that as well. And then finally, down here at the bottom, it says students can change and review answers before submitting an attempt. If unsubmitted attempts exist, students will be able to resume them. In other words, before they submit the test and they don't have answers done, they can go back and redo those answers. So we have this saved, and now it says saved. How about adding some questions? So we can either add questions here, or we can go back up to the top and we see that there's questions here. So there's a lot of options here, and I'm going to go through each one. First of all, there's an option to be able to add text. So if this is a text-based type of an assessment, you can go ahead and add a text, and you can either add a text through PDF, or you can type in a text. You can insert an image if you have scanned in a text, various things. So you can add text so students can read or have this available to them. We can also add items from the question bank, and the question bank is going to come in a different video, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But if you go to add items from a question bank, you would simply click on this. It's going to take you to this question bank here and to your resources, because if you have question banks in your resources, you'll be able to bring them in. So let's talk about question types. There are quite a few. There's actually about 16 total. Attached with this video is a breakdown of each type of question, including their best uses, so a few warnings about some of the question types, and an example of each one. So we're going to go ahead and add some of these questions here. So we're going to start with multiple choice. Most of the question setups are going to look very similar, where you have your question set up here where you can ask the actual question, have options for answers, and then choosing the correct answer at the bottom, along with a few other different standards we can add in. So we're going to start with the question setup. You have your basic text tools here, including font, different sizes. We have our bullets, including numbered lists. We have be able to add in links, images, equations, tables, quotes, special characters. You can also add in other tools like audio, video. Here's the calculator, ruler, and the protractor. If you have concerns about students being able to read the assessment, you can record audio or upload audio of yourself reading the question to the student, including the answers, so that way students can hear you read the question out loud without you actually doing it during class. And then finally we have, I did not mean to add that. Let's get rid of that. Oh, I guess I'm not getting rid of it. Well then. There it goes. All right. So you have that. You also have other resources that you can pull in from your resources page in Schoology. An undo button, the different styles, and the source. So let's start with a simple question here. What color is Clifford the dog? Okay, so basic question. I'm going to give some answer choices here. Green, red, blue, orange. You can also add more options or get rid of some options as well. You can also add distractor rationales if you want to add a distractor answer and then give a rationale as to why that one's the incorrect answer. You can also change the order of these. So if I want red to be the third thing, so it would be answer C, I can do that. I could also just like kind of drag things around. Okay. So correct answer is set up. If you want just a single correct answer, in other words, there's only one option for a correct answer, you would click that and move on, including looking at what different options here. We can have it so it shuffles the options, so each student would have a different option set up. If we click multiple responses, we have to take a few different looks at how this is going to look. Scoring type, exact match, or partial match, and we'll look at how this looks. Layout, we can do standard, which is this vertical layout here. We can do block layout, so that means it highlights the entire area. Or radio button under the option. So again, it's vertical, but they have a button under each one. You can also change the number of columns. So if we want it to be 2 columns, in the standard look, it will look like this. You can also add notes because we are able to save these questions. So if you are sharing this question with other teachers to be able to use, you can add some notes as to why this question is the way it is. And we can also add learning objectives and add standards. So let's talk about this up here, these multiple responses in the exact match and partial match. So let's say we have a different question here. Let's see here. What is needed to make a sand castle? Help if I spelled that correctly. There we go. Select all that apply. Okay, I have a select all that apply, which means they're going to have possibly more than one answer to this. So I can have this sand, clay, water, let's see here, a salad, fish. All right. So I have some options here. Now, we know that for this to be able to have multiple responses, that means there's going to be multiple answers. So our multiple answers here are sand and water. So if we want this to be an exact match, that's fine. If we want it to be a partial match, we have to add more correct answers. So in other words, it is possible for a student to select sand and then maybe clay, or sand and salad, or sand and fish, or water and clay, water and salad, water and fish. Now, any other combination would be incorrect. But these ones are only partially correct. So we would give this 50%. So we have to go through and add all these. And notice I had to add all of the possible alternatives to make this work. If you do not add all of the possible alternatives, I think I accidentally deleted one. Oh, I deleted water and fish here. There we go. If you don't have all the possible alternatives on here, it won't pick up some of the partial matches. So in other words, this is the exact match, this is the correct one, but the rest of these are only partial. And we have to have all the partial possibilities. When we're done editing our questions, we're going to click Save. And it puts our question here. Here we're able to give it a point value. So since this one has 2 possible answers, I'm going to make it worth 2 points. Next question type is true and false. Same idea here. We can type out the question here. Water is wet. True or false? So we can have the correct answer set up here. If we want students to be able to correct the answer if it's false, we can put this here and type in what reason they would have or how they would correct it. Just like the other one, there are learning objectives we can add and author's notes, and we also still have all the same text tools. So I'm going to save that. Matching. Now there's 2 columns here. So we have our question prompt up here, and we would have, make our options down here. So we can say, match the item to the correct color. Okay. So we can put items over here on the left side and colors over here on the right side. So let's see here. Start with an ant. Most ants are black or brown. Go with a bee. Bees are yellow and black. So we're just going to have yellow here. Goldfish is orange. And a cherry is red. All right. So here we can have this mixed up. So we can just move things around. So that way it's all mixed up there. And here we would find the correct answers. So this is the correct answer set up. So this is what we want. Duplicate responses means that an option can have more than one answer. So in other words, bees can be black and yellow. So we could have this as duplicate responses, which means if I drag black over here and yellow, it's a possibility. Again, exact match and partial match means that we have to have multiple correct answers. There's also a penalty score for each one they have wrong. If you want to preview how this looks to a student, we can click Preview up here, and we can see how this is going to look to the student. It says match the item to the correct color. It's a click and drag type of thing. And if we're happy with it, we can still hit Save from here. Next is ordering. Ordering is kind of the same idea as matching, where it's going to be a click and drag type of thing. So we'd have our question prompt, the different things that we want them to put in order. So list the correct order of a caterpillar life cycle. All right. So we know caterpillar starts as an egg. Then it goes to caterpillar and it eats everything. And then it becomes a chrysalis. I apologize if I spell this wrong. Chrysalis. Okay. And then it becomes a butterfly. We can mix this up so that way students have to move things around. Down here, we set up the correct answer as egg, caterpillar, chrysalis, butterfly. We can either have exact match, or partial pairwise per response. Meaning that, okay, egg and caterpillar are in the correct order, but if you have chrysalis first, that means that is incorrect. So you can have it as layout as a button, or as a list, or in line, so it's like left to right. I like the button response because it's easier for students to be able to click and drag it. See what this looks like as a student. Students will then click and drag to show the correct life cycle. And then it says, hey, 100%, good job. Going to save my question. And next are the fill in the blanks. Now the fill in the blanks, I'm only going to go through one because they're for the most part the same thing. Fill in the blanks means that you have a blank somewhere in the sentence that you want students to fill in. So fill in the blank text means the students are typing in their answer. Fill in the blank drop down means that the students are selecting from a drop down menu. And the fill in blank drag and drop means that they have a choice box where they can drag and drop the correct answer. So we're going to do a fill in the blank drag and drop. And it even gives you instructions here to create a blank type of and underscore, in other words, this little line here, type the correct response as correct answer setup. All right. So the very hungry caterpillar ate a, and we can leave this as a blank. So down here in the correct answer setup, we are going to be able to put in possible options. So option 1 is a leaf. Option 2 is cake. Option 3, there we go, it's banana. If I remember right, he actually ate all these things. Option 4, orange. All right. He's a very hungry caterpillar, so he ended up eating all of them. So I'm going to make duplicate responses okay. So he can eat a leaf, he can eat cake, he can eat a banana, and he can eat an orange. On the student end, it looks like this. Has the sentence and has a box for the students to drag and drop. If this was a drop-down menu, there'd be a little caret here that shows that they can open up a menu. If it was a text response, they would just type in the response. Short answer essay is pretty straightforward. Over here we have the text formatting tools that we have for students. In other words, what do you want students to have available to them for them to be able to edit the text that they are, writing. You can give them a word limit, such as it needs to be 500 words or less. You can always have them see the word limit so that way they know. See here, I'm going to turn on some styling here. There we go. And here I'm going to have them ask a question. Explain the scientific method. There you go. So students have to explain the scientific method in 500 words or less. Now down here at the bottom is a new thing that we didn't have in the other ones, and this is aligning a rubric. Carrie is going to go over how to create rubrics, but you can create a new rubric here and use a rubric to be able to grade this. Now I will say that anything that requires students to type in lengthy responses, such as short answer and essay, it's going to require you to grade it. The computer will not grade it for you. So keep that in mind when you add these type of questions. I'm going to save the question. Audio, video, and file upload are unique types of questions. Audio allows you to ask a question or create some sort of assignments, and students are actually going to record audio back to you. So, for example, I had a teacher last year, a band teacher, who wanted their students to be able to record themselves playing and submit it through Schoology. So kind of like a playing test. So we can say play bars 7 through 50 on the Vivaldi piece. Okay. You give them how much time that they are going to be able to have for this. This is 10 minutes currently, so 600 seconds. If they don't need as much time, you can get rid of that. You can also align a rubric to this because, again, this is something that you will have to grade yourself. The computer cannot grade it for you. For the student, they are going to look like this. They're going to have this red record button. They're going to be recording on their Chromebooks. So keep in mind that the audio is probably not going to be the best quality, but you'll still be able to hear what you need to hear. So they would hit record. They're able to play it back and make sure they can hear it themselves. And then they'll be able to submit that. Same idea for the video. They can record a video that's up to 10 minutes long. And it's going to have the same idea. They're going to be able to click record. It will ask them to allow their video camera to be used, in this case the camera built into the Chromebook. Please make sure that they click allow, otherwise it will not allow them to record the video. In file upload, if you have students that need to create, say, a piece of art and need to take a picture of it, or some sort of project and they need to take a picture of it, or maybe you have them create something that's in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Publisher, any of the Google Docs, they can actually upload this here. So you put the question setup, choose how many files you want them to be able to upload. Once again, align a rubric. Students will see this giant button that says upload files. They can also explain what the file is with this text tool. And once they do that, they'll be able to submit it. Label the image. This one's fun. This one, I will tell you, is kind of a bear to set up. Okay? So this is where students are going to be labeling an image that you are uploading. This is really great for maps, scientific diagrams, things like that. So first I'm going to find an image I want to upload. Okay, so I have this image. All right. I want my students to label specific areas of the Greek world. Okay? So I can draw areas where I want text boxes. So I want a response here. I want a response here. And I want a response here. I only want one response per container. And I can add correct options here. So I can say which one is which. Oh, sorry. I got to add the responses here. So we would add the responses. So we have the Aegean Sea. Really? We have Sparta. And the Germanic area. Down here, I would have students drag and drop what I want them to put where. You can also shuffle the options. Again, add learning objectives. Since this one is something that can be self-graded, we don't have to have a rubric for this. But then we click Save. And now we're going to go to Highlight Hotspot. So Highlight Hotspot is if you have an image, say for like a map or a diagram, and you have particular spots that you want students to be able to identify. Okay, so identify the area conquered by Alexander the Great. All right, so here we're going to draw a few options. So I know Alexander the Great's actual conquering zone starts around here. We're just going to... He actually went pretty far. Okay, so I know that's the correct answer zone, but I'm going to add a few others because this is going to be like a multiple choice type of question. So let's put the British Isles in here. The Iberian Peninsula, part of Africa. Let's do India. And let's do the Horn of Africa and part of the Arabian Peninsula. Here we go. So I have 5 options on here. Now down here I'm going to select which one is the correct one, and that would be this one. And again, we can have multiple responses if you want. We can also add our learning objectives in our notes. But to a student, they are going to see this, and they just have to select the correct area. This is a really unique style of question. I really like this one. Just keep in mind that you have to click around to make sure you have the correct area highlighted. I'm going to save this question, move on to the next one. We're going to move on to highlight image. Now, the students have different color options in order to highlight this, and because they're highlighting an image, this means that we can put in a text image, or we can put in a map, or a word search in the case that I'm going to use here. But when we put this in, we're not going to be able to see it right away because we have to go in and grade this ourselves. So we can say highlight the correct terms. Okay. In order to see this how a student sees it, we have to preview the image. So students are able to select a different color, and they can highlight the words in this word search. So they can highlight Athens, hoplite anything that they see in here that matches this. So it's a unique way to do a word search on here. So here's the word marathon. So I've got the word marathon, I can cross this out, and so on. Save that. Highlight text, same idea here. We can put in a text response, including possible responses where we want students to be able to highlight things. So highlight the noun and the following sentence. The noun. Let's make that plural, nouns. So we can say, I like to ride my bicycle. There we go. So we put possible responses. In this case, I want them to be able to highlight words. So I want them to highlight the word. Let me get rid of things here. I want them to be able to highlight one of these words in this sentence. I don't want them to highlight the instructions. So they'll see this as an option. I want them to highlight the word bicycle and the word I. So we have proper noun, bicycle. We can also have exact match or partial match. Please keep in mind partial matches means that you have to set up alternative answers. Maximum selection, I only want them to at most select 2. And students see this, they'll see that they cannot highlight anything in the instructions, but they can highlight anything in this sentence. Alright, math short answer. So math short answer just is kind of like a short answer essay question, but it allows for math tools. So in other words, we have some of our basic math functions on there, including the ability to write equations and so on. So we have different text blocks. So I can say, what is the slope? So, sorry, y-intercept formula. Okay. Here, what is the slope-intercept formula? We can write with this. We also have the basic calculator. We can also add keyboard. So we can say y equals, we gotta go here because there's no m x plus, back to basic, b, y equals mx plus b. Okay. And then they would submit that, or they can create a new line. Number line answers means that students can put things on a number line, so they can drag and drop things. So option A goes here, B, C, and D. So they can label things on a number line. After they put in a question type up here, question setup, you can also have the different options here. You are also able to edit this particular number line. So we can have the minimum value be -10, maximum value be +10. So now we have integers involved as well. And finally, chart. The chart one has been the most difficult for me to get my brain wrapped around. It's not the easiest thing to set up. So I'm actually going to show you an example that I built in another place. So I am going to go. So I have it sitting here in the EdTech Professional Development course. It's under Schoology, under Assessment Builder PD, right here, Professional Development. All right, so This is actually available to you guys to be able to see this as a student in our EdTech Professional. I do not have submissions enabled. I will go back and do that here in a little bit. However, I do want you to see how I set up the chart question. So I'm going to open up this chart question here. And I told them to take the chart below and convert it into a bar chart or bar graph. So I gave them this little display to show the number of types of school supplies. And I said, hey, I want you to create this. So I had to give our chart a title, a max value in the y-axis, what the x-axis has and what the y-axis has, and where I want the different points and how I want them labeled. I also made these interactive with their value starting at 0 because I want the students to fill in the chart themselves. So here's what the answer would look like. Students are going to be able to click and drag and move the bars to where they belong. So I see my pencils have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, which means I have to drag the bar to the number 8. So if I preview this question as a student, I go, okay, got to drag this up to 8. Ruler, this is 3. Pen is 2, and so on. But this does take some time to set up. I would highly suggest the first time you do this to let me know, and I will sit with you and we will create this one together. So once your questions are created, okay, you can preview the entire test. So you can start a new attempt and be able to test out the test yourself. And here, I'm going to edit this so I can enable submissions. So next time you guys are in our EdTech Professional Development course, you're going to be able to get to it. So if you go to this course, it's yellow, has a few little bees buzzing around it. Go to the Schoology folder, the Assessment Builder PD, and click on this Professional Development. You'll be able to check out how the students will interact with each of these types of questions. If you have any other questions about Assessment Builder, or if you want to go into more details about each question type, please feel free to reach out to Carrie or I, and we will set up a time to be able to work with you. Till then, have a great day.